Hello, my name is Evan. I am 24 years old. Engage in the art of auto detailing. I reside solo just on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. While it may lack allure, I earn a respectable income and tend to my own affairs. My acquaintance with Zach dates back to our high school days. Our connection has deepened through shared melodies, vintage trucks, and narrowly escaping the clutches of trouble just in the nick of time. He relocated out of state a few years ago, if I recall correctly, to Tennessee. Yet, we have consistently maintained our connection, even if it's merely through brief messages from time to time. It was last Thursday, just as the clock struck 8 in the evening, when I received a call from him. Neither a text, nor a voice message, an entire conversation. Immediately, I sensed that something was amiss. "Bro," he uttered, his voice trembling. "Could you do me a big favor? Like right now?" "Sure, what's going on?" "It's my mom. She called me about 10 minutes ago, in tears." No, it was absolutely hysterical. I could barely understand half of what she was saying. I attempted to reach her again, yet she remains unresponsive. I'm in a state of panic. I rose from my couch. Is she back at home? Indeed, I believe that to be the case. Her voice conveyed the impression that she was. "Evan, I find myself unable to reach that destination. Currently, I find myself in Nashville. You are merely 20 minutes from the dwelling. Would you be so kind as to check on her?" I acted without a moment's pause. "I am departing now." I slipped into a hoodie, seized my keys, and stepped out into the world. The journey to their home unfolded in silence, yet my thoughts were anything but tranquil. It had been more than a year since I last laid eyes on Diana's mother. She exuded kindness, maintained politeness, and carried an air of reserve. She was not the kind of person to crumble in such a manner. There was an undeniable sense that something was profoundly amiss. As I eased my vehicle into the driveway, the glow of the porch light welcomed me home. There was no indication of activity within. As I ascended with deliberate slowness, the sound of my shoes crunching against the gravel path filled the air. And then I beheld her. She sat quietly on the porch, swaying gently in cozy pajama pants and a roomy t-shirt, feet bare against the cool floor. She held her knees tightly with her arms. Her eyes glistened with a crimson hue, cheeks damp with unshed tears. Her hair was a chaotic tangle. She appeared shattered. "Elena," I spoke softly. She glanced upward, initially taken aback, but then a flicker of recognition crossed her face. "Evan," her voice trembled. "Zach reached out to me." He felt a sense of unease. "Are you all right?" She remained silent. She averted her gaze, hastily brushed her face, and then rose to her feet. Her body swayed gently, as if she had been deprived of both food and rest for an eternity. "May I enter?" I inquired. With a nod, he gently pushed the door open. The house lay in an unsettling silence, an eerie stillness that felt almost palpable. Silence enveloped the space. There was no television flickering, no melodies drifting through the air, and no familiar sounds of activity from the kitchen as I once recalled. Only silence envelopes the scene, thick with an air of profound sorrow. I trailed behind her into the living room. She settled into her seat, grasping a throw pillow as if it were a protective barrier. I lingered in anticipation. He let out a hearty laugh. "At last," she declared, gathered his belongings, and stepped out the door. I remained silent. He mentioned encountering someone younger and more beautiful, expressing a desire to no longer squander his life. After 12 years, in an instant, her voice faltered. Once more, she averted her gaze and fixed her eyes on the window. I believed we were in a good place, imperfect yet satisfactory. At this moment, I find myself engulfed in a sense of emptiness. I perched on the brink of the armchair, grappling with the words that eluded me. What words could possibly capture the essence of such a moment? Then she gazed directly at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and murmured, "Take me anywhere." I blinked in surprise. "What? Anywhere? I can't stay here right now. Not in this house. Not tonight." It was clear she wasn't seeking a permanent escape from reality, merely from the heft of the night The betrayal. The silence of a home that had abruptly grown too vast and too frigid. In that instant, thought eluded me. I rose to my feet and declared, "All right, it's time to go." She nodded slowly, dabbed at her face once more, retrieved a sweater from the coat rack, and trailed behind me as we stepped outside. We were unaware of our destination, only that we were embarking on a journey away from here. The drive was marked by a comfortable silence between us. She nestled in the passenger seat, her legs drawn up, arms encircling herself in a protective embrace. I found myself stealing glances, drawn to. I wanted to ensure she was all right, yet she never turned her gaze towards me. Instead, she fixated on the window, as if the world beyond held all her attention. It barely registered at all. Unsure of the destination, I simply let the road guide me as I drove. Following a stretch of 20 minutes marked by silence and desolate roads, I found myself at a serene overlook by Hoover Reservoir. The distance was short, yet the tranquility enveloped the surroundings. A broad expanse of water stretches out, accompanied by a solitary bench and a handful of trees, all devoid of human presence. I pulled into the spot, turned off the engine, and cast my gaze to the side. "Would you like to take a moment to step outside?" I inquired. She gave a slight nod and opened the door. The atmosphere was crisp and moist, a sensation that lingers in the moments following twilight. She took a few steps toward the railing and leaned against it, her posture relaxed yet contemplative. I trailed behind, maintaining a respectful distance, allowing her the space to breathe. She inhaled deeply, allowing the air to fill her lungs, then released it gradually. "We visited this place once," she murmured softly. "Long ago, he led me to this place following a quarrel. He expressed a desire to begin anew, expressed everything perfectly. I placed my trust in him." I chose not to reply. Uncertainty lingered in the air as I pondered whether she sought the comfort of words or simply the presence of another soul beside her. "I gave him everything," she continued. "Moments, affection, endeavor. I absolved transgressions that perhaps I ought to have held against them. I convinced myself of my fortune in having him by my side. And now I find myself feeling utterly foolish." She brushed her face once more, though it stemmed more from frustration than from sorrow at this point. A subtle change resonant in her voice. "It's not merely heartbreak. It's a tempest of anger simmering beneath the surface." "Can you fathom what causes the deepest pain?" she inquired. Yet he showed no sign of emotion, no tears, no hesitation. He simply walked away as if I had never existed. I moved in closer. "You mattered. You do." She turned her head, finally meeting my gaze. Ever since we departed from the house, her gaze was both shimmering and unwavering. "What brings you here, Evan?" I hesitated. "It was Zach who requested that I inquire about your well-being." "That's not quite what I intended to convey." I remained silent. She tilted her head ever so slightly and cast her gaze once more upon the water. "I apologize. My thoughts are scattered in every direction at this moment." "There's no requirement for an apology. It is permissible for you to exist as you are." She emitted a humorless chuckle. "Permitted? How amusing." For countless years, I sought approval to experience even the slightest emotion. A lengthy silence enveloped the room. Once more, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "I appreciate your presence here." I inclined my head in acknowledgement. I need not return home this evening. We shall discover a suitable place to rest and procure a meal. It is essential to find clarity in your thoughts." Her gaze lingered on me, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, yet she eventually inclined her head in agreement. Indeed. Very well." We returned to the car. In a mere 15 minutes of searching, I stumbled upon a quaint lakeside retreat not far from my location. Unpretentious, merely one of those roadside gems featuring wooden decks that offer a glimpse of the water's expanse. Upon our arrival, we checked in seamlessly, receiving a double room without a single inquiry from the receptionist. Within the room, she positioned herself on the bed nearest to the window, her gaze fixed upon the panorama. I placed an order for us, burgers, fries, and 2 bottles of water. She scarcely grazed her meal, merely toying with the bun. "Would you like to continue our conversation?" I inquired, "or simply drift into slumber?" She reclined against the headboard. "Perhaps we can converse tomorrow. This evening." I yearned for the clamor in my mind to cease. Then I urged, "Take a moment to rest." "I shall remain right here." She nodded, drawing the blanket snugly over her legs. I claimed the other bed and settled in, still clad in my clothes. The television lay silent, the lights cast a soft glow, and for a fleeting moment, the only sound that filled the air was the gentle rhythm of her breath. Indeed, before I succumbed to slumber, her voice reached me, soft and subtle, akin to a fleeting thought escaping her lips. "I appreciate your presence and the choice to stay." I chose not to respond. I allowed the silence to speak on my behalf. The gentle patter of rain falls softly, a rhythmic serenade that dances upon rooftops and whispers through the leaves. The very first detail that captured my attention upon opening my eyes. The gentle, melodic patter of rain dancing upon the window pane. It wasn't burdensome. Rather, it served as a soft nudge, a reassurance that the world continued to turn, vibrant and pulsating, even when the depths of one's being felt ensnared. I rose gradually from my slumber. Elena had already risen from her slumber. She perched at the edge of her bed, gazing out the window. She transformed, currently adorned in jeans and a light gray long-sleeve shirt. Her hair was gathered in a relaxed bun, effortlessly styled. From behind, she appeared as though she was striving to maintain her composure, and in some way she was succeeding. "Good morning," I murmured, my fingers brushing away the remnants of slumber from my eyelids. She tilted her head, a gentle smile playing on her lips. "Your snoring is quite noticeable." A brief chuckle escaped my lips. "Are you certain it wasn't the refrigerator?" She gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "Not at all. Without a doubt, it's you." I extended my limbs, feeling the satisfying crack of my spine in 3 distinct locations. "How do you find yourself feeling today?" She rose from her seat and made her way to the window, lingering for a moment before responding. "Still fond, though perhaps slightly less so than yesterday." I inclined my head in agreement. "Indeed, that holds significance." A prolonged silence enveloped the room. I took my time with it. I assumed that if she had the desire to converse, she would do so on her own accord. As we stepped out of the inn, the clock had just ticked past 10. I inquired whether she preferred to join me for breakfast or return home, yet she merely shook her head in response. "Not just yet," she replied. "I am not ready to return there just yet." My gaze fell upon her. She had ceased her tears. She appeared weary yet resolute, embodying the essence of someone who had quietly resolved to uphold their choice. "Very well," I replied. "Thus, where shall we go?" She gave a slight shrug. "Let us simply embark on a drive." And that is precisely what we accomplished. For the first half-hour, the radio remained silent, untouched and unneeded. The windshield wipers swept back and forth with a rhythmic determination. The rain served as a steady backdrop to the quiet that enveloped us, yet it held no discomfort. It simply existed. After approximately an hour, we veered off the main road to refuel. I topped off the tank as she stepped inside. She emerged once more, cradling 2 steaming cups of coffee and a bag of trail mix in her hands. "For the journey," she remarked. We continued our journey on the road. At a certain moment, she She leaned out of the window, her arm reaching into the brisk embrace of the wind. Her hair danced wildly in the wind. She cast a glance in my direction and offered a genuine smile for the very first time. "Are you always this adept at simply dropping everything and vanishing?" I shook my head. "Not even close. I typically schedule my lunch breaks." "Well," she replied, reclining slightly, "it seems we are both in need of a bit of wandering." By midday, we found ourselves in Hawking Hills. It was not something I had anticipated. As the signs emerged, I made the turn. We discovered a quaint trailhead and parked the She left the car behind and strolled away. The rain had ceased by that time, yet the world remained soaked, imbued with the rich scent of earth and foliage. Our conversation was sparse as we traversed the trail. We strolled together, side by side, enveloped in a tranquil silence. The incline was challenging in certain sections, yet manageable overall. At last, we arrived at a clearing that offered a breathtaking view of the valley below, where trees extended endlessly, their tops shrouded in fog that twisted and curled like wisps of smoke. Elena stood at the edge of the railing, her arms outstretched as if she were embracing the very essence of existence. "For years now, I haven't truly felt like myself," she remarked. Silently, I chose not to respond. No words seemed adequate to express what I felt. We found ourselves perched upon a weathered wooden bench in close proximity. She spoke more this time, steering clear of the betrayal we had addressed that, yet concerning the years preceding it, there was a gradual diminishment of respect, a sense of vanishing within the confines of another's expectations. I kept striving to be less needy, less loud, less emotional, all to ensure he wouldn't walk away, she confided. Yet he departed regardless. She pivoted in my direction. For an eternity, I existed in the shadows, unseen. I was oblivious to the moment my existence faded away. That struck a chord, an essence within me. Words eluded me. I chose to remain silent. I have just listened. We lingered in that place for an additional hour. We climbed back into the car and journeyed onward as the sun began its descent. We discovered a charming little lodge, the kind adorned with pinewood walls and vintage quilts draped over the beds. Simple yet inviting, a haven of comfort. Within the confines of our room, we placed an order for food, a pizza accompanied by 2 sodas. She chuckled at the delivery guy's remark, "Enjoy your romantic getaway." I replied, "It's not like that." He merely winked and strolled away. We dined while seated cross-legged on our beds. We gazed at the flames dancing in the modest stone fireplace across the room. She retrieved a deck of cards from her purse, and we engaged in a game of Go Fish, reminiscent of our teenage years. Possessed a certain simplicity. It was sometime after the 3rd round that I noticed her gaze fixed upon me. "What is this?" I inquired with a half-smile. She cast her gaze downward before lifting it once more. "Your kindness and patience shine through." I had no idea how deeply I longed for that. I found myself at a loss for words. I simply maintained her gaze. Then she spoke, her voice softer this time. "You inspire me." I still embrace my identity as a woman, refusing to be seen merely as someone else's remnants. I rose from my seat and made my way to the window. She trailed behind, positioning herself next to me. The forest beyond lay shrouded in darkness, enveloped in silence, its ground still glistening from the earlier downpour. "I'm not sure what this is," she remarked. "I don't want to spoil this moment. I just know that being here, right now, feels better than anything has in a long time." I turned to her. "I feel the same." She inched nearer, a deliberate motion. There's no urgency, no anxiety, only a sense of intimacy. Her hand sought out mine. As she leaned in, the moment culminavand in a kiss, not driven by passion, nor by lust, but by a mutual brokenness, by the journey of healing. That evening, we found ourselves sharing the same bed. She nestled against me, her head resting on my chest, fingers gently drawing circles on my arm. Not a single one of us uttered the word love. That was not the case. It was a sense of solace. It was the sensation of rediscovering one's humanity. As she slipped into slumber, her voice barely a whisper, she expressed her gratitude. "Thank you for reminding me what it feels like to be alive." The following morning, I found myself awake before she stirred. The room remained shrouded in dimness. Thick drapes shielded the room from the sun's relentless rays. And for a next, I simply reclined, attuned to the rhythm of her breath. She appeared serene, nestled beneath the quilt, her hair tousled, her face gentle and at ease. It felt as though reality had slipped through my fingers. It was as if we had emerged from the confines of reality, leaving behind our duties, our sorrows, and the weight of history, discovering a sanctuary untouched by the world. With a gentle motion, I eased myself out of bed, donned a cozy hoodie, and ventured outside onto the modest wooden deck that offered a view of the encroaching woods. The atmosphere was sharp and invigorating. Somewhere among the trees, the melodic chirping of birds filled the air. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I found myself unburdened by the weight of obligations or the relentless tick of the clock, free to simply exist in the moment. I simply remained there, inhaling and exhaling. She emerged roughly 20 minutes later, cocooned in a blanket, cradling 2 steaming mugs of coffee. One for her, one for me. "You vanished," she murmured gently. "I hesitated to disturb your slumber." She passed me the mug, her figure resting against the railing. I had forgotten the sensation of silence such as this. I inclined my head in agreement. "It is quite pleasant." She took a delicate sip of her coffee. "It is peculiar. I sense that our connection spans a lifetime it feels as though this is the very first time we've truly encountered one another. I understand that." A lengthy silence enveloped us as she turned her gaze toward me and asked, "Do you regret last night?" I simply shook my head. "Absolutely not, not in the slightest. I feel the same way." Her lips curled into a smile. Not the weary, strained expression I had observed on her face the day before. This experience was authentic, tender, and fully engaged. We made the choice to linger for an additional day. Not due to any specific plans, but rather because neither of us was ready to disrupt the delicate balance of what we had just yet. As we meandered through the woods, our conversation drifted to trivial matters. Our favorite films, the melodies that lingered in our minds. In the 90s, I experienced some truly awful first dates, yet I found myself laughing far more than I had anticipated. At one moment, we paused beside a quaint waterfall. She removed her shoes, hiked up her jeans, and waded into the icy water. "You must be out of your mind," I remarked. She splashed me, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Come in, coward." I did. It was freezing. We lingered for perhaps 2 minutes, before retreating to the rocks, shivering and laughing like carefree children. She reclined on a smooth stone, allowing the sun to warm her face. "I feel like I'm 25 again," she remarked. "Or perhaps not quite 45. You certainly don't appear to be 45, I remarked impulsively. She unveiled one. I cast a glance in their direction. "Proceed with caution. Your charm is effortlessly captivating." We shared a laugh, but soon fell into silence. It was a moment where time seemed to stand still. We found ourselves as 2 souls adrift in the vast expanse of nowhere, our feet bare and soaked. The sun warms our skin, unburdened by the weight of history. Later, upon our return to the lodge, we placed an order for dinner from a nearby diner. Crispy fried chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, and a slice of pie. We dined in the comfort of our bed, a film flickering softly in the background. The film has slipped from my memory entirely. I recall her sitting nearby, her shoulder against mine, our hands grazing every few moments as if seeking reassurance that all remained well. As the film drew to a close, the lights softened, and the fire flickered gently, its glow fading into the shadows. She glanced my way and remarked, "You make me feel like I matter again." "You do," I replied. "You always did. I don't want this to be a fantasy." She said, "I don't want to pretend we're something we're not, but I also don't want to let go of this just because it's complicated. I'm not asking for forever. I just want to be here with you, for however long this lasts." She leaned in and kissed me slowly, with certainty and a sense of grounding. That night unfolded differently from the first. It transcended comfort and pain. It was about the conscious choice of one another, fully aware of the consequences that loomed. We understood it couldn't endure, that we weren't crafted for a future. Yet we also recognized that this fleeting, exquisite connection was ours. We lingered late into the night, talking, kissing, and holding each other close. At one point, she rested her forehead against mine and whispered, "I needed this more than I knew." Not the intimacy, the desire for connection, the embrace of another. "You deserve that every day," I said. I had forgotten what it meant to be a woman. Neither a wife nor a mother, just a woman. I didn't respond. Instead, I drew her closer. We drifted into sleep, entwined in each other's warmth. No alarms, no clocks, no urgency to depart. Just two souls in the vastness of nowhere, granting each other the space to heal. We departed the lodge 2 days later. Though unspoken, we both sensed it, the ending. It lingered in the air like morning fog, not oppressive, but undeniable. There was no argument, no tension, just the quiet understanding that what we had existed in a bubble. And that bubble couldn't last forever. We packed in silence, folding clothes carefully, placing toothbrushes back into travel bags as if it mattered. Elena lingered by the mirror longer than necessary, adjusting her hair, fixing her earrings, then simply gazing at her reflection. "I look different," she murmured. I looked up. "You do?" "Happier." She smiled, yet there was a trace of sadness in it. Lighter, perhaps. I feel like myself once more. Or perhaps a version of me I had long forgotten. We departed just after 10 a.m. The woman at the front desk offered us a knowing smile, yet we remained unresponsive. We were already descending back into the realm of reality. The return journey was enveloped in quietude. No melodies accompanied us this time, only the rhythmic hum of the road and the musings of our minds. Elena gazed out the window, and I allowed her that moment. I had no desire to disrupt the stillness with hollow chatter. This silence felt almost sacred. When we finally arrived at her house, she lingered for a moment, not moving, simply sitting there with her hands folded in her lap, gazing at the porch as if it were a relic of someone else's life. "I don't want to go inside yet," she murmured. I nodded in understanding. "We can sit here as long as you need." But after a moment, she unbuckled her seat belt. "No, I need to face it. I have to." With that, she opened the door, stepped out, then hesitated. "Come in with me?" Of course. Inside, everything remained just as we had left it. Yet the air felt different, lighter somehow. The sadness had lifted just enough to allow a glimmer of light to seep through. She walked slowly through. The living room enveloped us, her fingers grazing the edge of the couch, the picture frames standing sentinel on the shelf. Then she turned to me, her gaze steady. "I've been thinking," she said, "about everything." A weight hung in the air. "Yeah, I can't pretend this wasn't real. I don't want to, but I also know this isn't something we can stretch into a different shape and expect it to fit." I nodded, understanding etched on my face. "I know." She inhaled deeply. "You helped me feel alive again. I wanted human connection, and I don't have the words to thank you for that. But I also know we can't go on like this." I stepped closer, the distance between us charged with unspoken truths. "You don't owe me anything," she said, her voice steady. "It's not about owing. It's about honesty. I needed you. You showed up. You stayed. You gave me something beautiful. But now I need to stand on my own." I looked at her, really looked. She was stronger, steadier. Her eyes, once brimming with tears, were now clear and focused. "I get it," I replied. She reached out, took my hand, and held it for a long moment. "This will stay with me," she whispered. "All of it. Every minute." "Me too," I said. She pulled me into a hug, tight, warm, final. Then she pulled back and kissed me on the cheek. I felt a wave of reassurance wash over me. I believed her. As I approached the door, I turned back for one final glance. She stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, a subtle smile gracing her lips. I climbed into my car and drove home. The familiar roads stretched out before me, yet something within had transformed. Not in a tragic sense, nor in a hopeless manner, just altered. It was as if I had experienced something genuine and extraordinary, and now it was time to release it. The following day, Zach sent me a text. Just a single line. "Thanks for coming over." She remarked, "You truly helped." I remained silent, grappling with the weight of unspoken words that eluded me in a simple text message. Perhaps one day I would share my truth, or perhaps it would remain locked away. A week later, a letter arrived, devoid of a return address, just a neatly folded note nestled within. "You reminded me of my essence as a woman. that time is still on my side, that love, even if fleeting, is a treasure worth experiencing. Forever grateful, D. I carefully folded the note and tucked it away in the depths of my drawer. Our silence has lingered since, and that's perfectly all right. What we shared was never destined to endure endlessly.